Welcome back to the Faithful Fanatic Show, everybody. We are live here, as always, on DSM Media's Philadelphia YouTube and Twitter channels. If you guys are new to the channel, do yourself a favor, do us a favor. Make sure to check us out on Twitter first at DSM_media. Hit that follow button and then check out the link tree in our bio. It will take you directly to the most important site, and that is our YouTube channel. Guys, hit that subscribe button, like the video, share it with your friends, family, any other Philly sports fans that you may know of. We greatly appreciate you guys tuning in. It's the best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here with us. I'm one half of your host, Dylan Davis. To my left, my faithful co-host, Scotty. We are one day, just over 24 hours away from first pitch in Nationals Park. Phillies, Zach Wheeler on the mound against Mackenzie Gore to kick off the 2025 campaign. We're going to get into our official expectations, predictions. We're going to talk about team MVP this year, biggest bounce back candidate, biggest surprise, stock up or stock down for certain players. If you have any players or managers or management that you want to get into, make sure to drop it in the comments and we'll get to as many of them as we can. But happy hump day, brother. And what is going on?
Yes, sir. Happy hump day. Happy to be here. We're one day away from the start of the baseball season, one day away from the Sweet 16 kicking off. Obviously, I'm really excited for that, along with some Phillies baseball, man. So, we're getting into the sweet spot of the week is the way it feels for me. Like I can get to this part of the week. Like I've had a lot of work early on this week too with my day job, and it's been a hell of a week, but we're going to be coasting come Thursday, man. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, man, it's an exciting time for the Phillies. Like all eyes on the Phillies. I think it is a little different than the start of the last couple seasons. One, because we talked about it already, kind of the up and down expectations that everybody has for the Phillies compared to the juggernauts like the Dodgers, right? Everybody points to the Dodgers. So it creates this like almost like impossible feeling of winning a World Series. But on the other side of things, it's also different because the Sixers fucking suck. So all eyes on the Phillies from the start of the season, man. And it's not necessarily pressure. It's not pressure. Yeah. It's just it can turn into pressure if things start horrible, but it's just all eyes, all excitement. People are going to be happy as the weather gets better to get out there to the ballpark, man. So better times are coming. I'm excited for it, brother. I really am. I'm actually jealous of you heading up to DC. That sounds real nice. If I could get off work, I would try to swing it myself. But we're gonna get out to some games this spring, summertime. We're gonna have some fun, man. But it's here. I'm excited.
I think that's the vibe that everyone needs to bring. Everyone needs to be excited to get out to the ballpark. Not only because is it a great time, no matter who's on the mound, who's playing. If your team isn't that good, a summer night watching
baseball.
Even
when the Phillies sucked, it was nice to go out.
Except we have
a spring baseball game, dude. Like in the evening, grab a hot dog if you like those things, and more importantly, the brew.
Glizzy and a brew. But
the Glizzy and a brew. Come on.
I think that's a good place to start because it's something that we've we've beat a dead horse over the last week and a half, getting geared up for the start of the season. Talking about just expectations, vibes, pressure, where this fan base's mindset is at when it comes to this team. And I just find it interesting because you mentioned the juggernaut that is the Dodgers a minute ago. And it does. It makes you feel almost when you watch them play like, well, what's the point? But if that's the mindset that you're going to have, the Dodgers are just too good for anybody to compete with. Let's just cancel the 2025 season and let's cancel the next 4 seasons if that's the case, right? So you can't go in on it that way. And I just find it funny reflecting back on this Eagles season. And I'm looking at the start of this Phillies season. And the reason I bring that up is because I felt like us doing this show, Eagles Twitter, being involved with other people, a bunch of our friends on social media, the back and forth with the national media when it came to the Eagles, right? Yeah. We feel like we have this great team, this juggernaut of a team, and it's like they're being disrespected. They're not being talked about in the same light, and we're arguing with national media like we almost want their approval. Not that that's what it was, but it's like we want to hear that we believe that.
Yeah.
I have about 4 tweets I can go and find and 3 TikToks I have saved of national media members, people from the MLB network, people that do podcasts that have a big following that talk baseball all year round. And no, this does not, I'm not saying, we need their stamp of approval. but there's about 7 individuals that had the Phillies winning the World Series this year. There's a few that had them losing in the World Series. There's a few that have Bryce Harper winning MVP. There's a few that have Zach Wheeler winning the Cy Young Award finally. I say that because it's flipped.
Yeah.
What we experienced last couple months.
I am curious.
For some reason, the people that that we watch and listen to all the time believe in this team, and there's a large majority of this fan base that is out before a pitch is thrown.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's crazy.
It is. It's very interesting. And something I wanted to ask you off that, the people that made those predictions, did they have the Phillies winning the NL East?
Some.
Or did it not say maybe? Or
some had like their full breakdowns, like league award winners, division winners, wild cards, and then their trail through. I've seen Phillies over Yankees. I've seen Phillies over Orioles, which that's a whatever opinion from both standpoints. Phillies over Red Sox. I've seen Phillies lose to the Dodgers. Phillies lose to the Braves. Different things like that. But my point is, this is a baseball team that is still top 5 in the league. That's another thing. I've seen a couple different power ranking lists that had the Phillies, 2 or 3 on the list. And I don't say that to be like, see, look at what these smart people, look at what these people that talk about the game all the time say. It's not that we should care. It's just that I find it interesting that our own fan base, who craves attention quite often and wants like people to believe in us, won't believe in this baseball team before the year starts.
Yeah, it is interesting, man. It is interesting just to see to kind of hear the perception of the team, but I do think it's one of those things, man. Once they actually do throw the first pitch, I think people will start to open their eyes, and
I do kind of agree. Yeah,
take a breath of fresh air.
People are going to get bought into every single game, and
you see Bryce crank one, you see Trey maybe crank one, right? Like Schwartz gets a crank spot in his new spot in the lineup. Like people will get excited.
Potentially.
We'll
have to see come tomorrow. This time tomorrow, that lineup card will be out, and we'll see what top
that's going to be the lineup. Yeah.
Well, let's get into it, man. We got a couple fun segments to get into. Yeah. Let's start with a guy on our minds, and I don't know who you picked, obviously, that maybe struggled a bit last year. Who is your bounce back candidate this year? Who's a guy that you had high expectations for, or the city or team had high expectations for last year, didn't quite come through as consistent or as much as you needed him to, that you believe in 2025 is going to be a big piece of this team?
Sounds like you're speaking on somebody very specific.
I have my guy. I don't know who you have.
If you've already picked him out for me, but Alec Bohm, I felt like he is. Oh, so that's not your guy?
No, it's not my guy.
Interesting. So you were describing somebody else. Now, I think Alec Bohm, like, bounce back is very speculative as well, right? Based on his season last year, but I think just bouncing back from the perception of the fan base on Alec Bohm from the end of last season. Obviously, we talked about it earlier this week. From the time that the Phillies left the postseason last year, there was talk around trading Alec Bohm, seeing Alec Bohm on a new team. I feel like he has to bounce back, man. I feel like he has to have a big season for the Phillies. I feel like he has to show up in the bigger moments this year. You talk about his spot in the batting lineup this year, potentially, once again. It's going to be a huge spot. It's a spot that's supposed to make more sense for him. Right. So it's a spot where he is expected to excel in. And I think the biggest thing for me, man, with him is like the talent. We've seen the talent is there. It seems like he has a little bit of a head case. He needs to grow up a little bit, man. He needs to grow up this season because he's not that young anymore, right? Like he's not one of the young guys.
Daycare is not all that young, guys.
It's like at the end of the day, this guy's got to grow up. I don't want to see any of the temper tantrums in these big moments where you let the team down. Like you know what I mean? Like get mad within yourself, of course, but you don't have to show that and give that to the rest of the team either. That energy, that's the bigger thing for me. But the other side of it is that he just simply will not hear the end of it if he comes out and does not perform up to par this year. And it's going to be a lot of eyes on him.
It's already a tough relationship. I saw a clip from Hunter Brody from WIP, but he was doing like his Broads Media thing. It wasn't on WIP when he said it, but I think he was reading like a report or listening to a clip about Alec Boehm recently in this offseason, and a relationship that he had formed with somebody and that he kind of opened up to this offseason, and basically suggesting that, Alec is a great, like he loves this team. He loves his teammates. He loves his coaches. And I think this part is when he was talking about like the city, maybe the fans, but he said, but they don't always love him back. And I think that's the relationship, the mental between the fan base. We saw it a couple years ago. I fucking hate this place. And it felt like we got past that. It
did.
Felt like he bounced back. He improved in the field. Alec Boehm is a great candidate for this because I think he's the guy that everyone pointed to at the end of last year and said he needs to go.
Yeah.
Nolan Arenado might be on the market. Alex Bregman might be on the market. We need an upgrade at the corner position there. Get Alec Boehm out of the city. He cannot play here. And look, man, if you want a vote of confidence, Alec, that's exactly what Dave Dombrowski and this team is doing for you. And if Rob Thompson decides to go with that new look lineup and you are the 3-hole hitter, you want a vote of confidence, here you go. They trust you, okay? They're putting you in a role that you are expected to produce, and you are expected to drive runs in. You are expected to hit for a bit of power. You are expected to hit for a high average. That 3-hole hitter is one of them, is possibly the most important in a major league lineup.
Yeah.
So the city doesn't love you. The fans don't respect you. The team, blah, blah, blah. They brought you back, and you might be hitting 3 for a World Series contender. That's all you need to know about how people feel about you. Go produce.
Yeah.
That's what I need from him. Yeah. Because you're right, man. They're not 22-year-old kids anymore. Excuse me.
Yeah.
This dude's 27, 28 years old.
Yeah.
It's time to go produce.
Yeah.
With that said,
who you got?
I'm going with Bryson Stott.
I like it. Yeah, I thought maybe that's where you were going to go if you weren't going Alec Boehm. So
and Stott's interesting because he, like, even when he's not producing consistently, he did it in the one playoff game they won last year. There are clutch at-bats from Bryson Stott, it feels like, in big moments all the time, but the consistency is not there. And then after the season ends, and at that point in time, when the season ends the way it does, you don't want to hear about how there was a quiet injury that, like, it just feels like excuses are being made.
Bullshit.
However, as time goes on,
it's fair.
I think there's something to it. And I watched a breakdown of how he changed where his elbow was, like his swing through, and his swing trajectory because of the elbow injury. I think that's a real thing. And I think if he's okay heading into this year, he is a huge, huge piece to this team because he's already a Gold Glove caliber second baseman. He's great in the field. He has to be consistent at the back end of this lineup. He hit 245 last year, Scotty. That ain't gonna cut it. Okay, that is not going to cut it in this Phillies lineup that we have had problems with at the back end. When you have a back end of, let's say, a Bryson Stott, a Brandon Marsh, and a Johan Rojas before we get back to the top of the order, Bryson Stott's got to be a Mr. Consistent down there. So he is my pick for bounce back player of the year. I think that elbow injury has a lot of truth to it on the second half of the year. And I think you see a better Bryson at the plate. I'll be interested to see, because we kind of feel like we know where Alec's going to be in the lineup. Like we're predicting, maybe we're even hoping that he's 3, because that means Trey's more than likely leading off and Bryce is getting bumped up. I'm interested to see where Stott slides. Right? Like, is he a 6-hole hitter or is he an 8-hole hitter right before Brandon Marsh? So that'll be, or you also have Marsh as a lefty, Bryson as a lefty. You know, if Schwarber is your leadoff guy, so you have to find a way to break that up. I'll be interested to see where they kind of slide him into, man.
Yeah, no, it's funny you said that, because I was looking at Matt Gelb's article right before we hopped on here, and he listed, it was in the New York Times, he listed his projected starting lineup, and he did put Stott in the 8-hole.
All right.
Right behind JT. So
and
he had a Casty, Max, JT, Stott, Marsh to finish out the bottom half of that lineup.
I love it. I love it because it just makes, I know every year we come into a season with this loaded lineup, it always feels like, right? But at one point or another, maybe it's the middle of the summer, maybe there's some injuries or whatnot, maybe you're getting close to the postseason and a guy didn't pan out the way you want him to. the lineup never seems quite as deep, right? You get to October, and once we get to like the 6 or 7 hole, we're like let's just say 7, 8, 9 was coming up, and it's Marsh, Stott, Rojas, or Hayes, Rojas, Stott, something like that. How you feeling about that upcoming inning?
Not
However,
great.
I look back, I look now, and I go, Bryson Stott in the 8 hole. Well, that lineup's got to be pretty fucking deep. Now you got to stay healthy, obviously, and things have to work out. And Max Kepler has to produce. Nick Castellanos has to stay consistent. But I love Bryson Stott down in the 8 hole, man.
Yeah, and I like the pick of Bryson Stott, man. I think when you look at him coming into this season, obviously everybody expected him to have that jump going into last year. Showed signs of it, and he showed signs throughout his career that he can be an excellent player. As you mentioned, he's had the clutch at bats in the big moments already. So it's not necessarily that. It is just the consistency portion, man. It's the non-big moments. It's the moments when the back end of the lineup is not giving you anything. You need that part of the back end to give you something, right? And that's what we're asking for from Bryson Stott here. I don't think we're asking for a lot, quite honestly. I think he can give us more than what we're ultimately asking for out of the 8-hole hitter, right? And I think that's the big thing with Bryson Stott this year. So I like that. I think it's, you look at those, the 2 guys we picked, Alec Bohm, Bryson Stott. They're both guys where you're not so young anymore, right? And the excuses aren't there as much anymore. It's time to grow up. And Bryson Stott hasn't had like the stuff that Alec Bohm has had. I don't mean it like that. But it's time for us to take the kid gloves off with him, and we really have.
Stott's quite the opposite. If you like, Stott he's kind of been handled with kid gloves, right? Like he's a fan favorite. Everyone loves him, you know. So it is a year for that. And I also like the 2 picks, right? And it's going to be a lot of people's picks. Marsh in their top 3 team in baseball. But they're important. They're so important because it can't always be number 3, and it can't always be number 12 getting high. Like those guys at one point or another, right? The older guys are going to need days off. They're going to go through a slump at some point. And can those 2 or one of those 2 carry the load the way we're expecting or hoping one of those two guys to do this year? So that's going to be incredibly important. Let me ask you this, man.
Yeah.
These 2 things differ, I think, between bounce back, right? Because you're coming off a negative year. But I guess a surprise would also be, a guy maybe you think is negative. Do you have a surprise play? Do you have a sleeper pick? Whether it's someone new, whether it's someone, young and upcoming, whether it's a pitcher in the book. Who's your sleeper pick? Biggest surprise Philly this year that is going to produce that fans are going to end up really liking?
Yeah. I actually have 3 guys picked just because there's a little bit of a little bit of overlap here, but to answer your question or to kind of finish your point there, I did have Stott down as a surprise, and the reason I put it that way with Stott was just because it was expected last year. So maybe the people that expected it last year, maybe you just don't expect it so much this year, and he gives you it this year, and now it's a surprise, right? And that's kind of how I came to that conclusion with Bryson Stott. But it's everything you said, being more consistent, and really just taking that jump we expected last season. The other 2 guys are new. So I did point out Andrew Painter, right? Is that going to be a surprise, though, if he's good?
When he comes up? No.
When he comes up, is that going to be a surprise? Like, because if I guess the reason I pose the question that way,
I get what you mean,
is because I feel like everybody expects Andrew Painter to come up at some point this season and pitch well.
I think he would be in that category, not maybe under surprise, but like added bonus,
if this happens, man, we're having a hell of a season, or we don't need this to happen for us to have a great season. Yeah,
correct.
I think that's a great way to put it. I will throw you this along with Painter. Bold prediction from Matt Gell, my resource here. Bold prediction from him. Painter arrives June 30th. For the Fightins. He makes 14 starts throughout the second half of the year. and he gets second place in NL Rookie of the Year voting.
That's
his big. That would be a surprise. I would say.
I love it.
But it shows the confidence in Painter, man. But once again, is that really a surprise? The other guy that I really pointed to, and Taijuan Walker. That's hilarious.
No.
I went with Max Kepler, man. I went with him because he is new. He is the one big addition, really, of this offseason to the lineup. But the hope is that he can fit it perfectly, right? And that's what I'm hoping that we get with Max Kepler here. And the truth is, man, Dombrowski, Thompson, they've taken so many swings at kind of filling this hole.
Yeah.
And it just hasn't worked, right? We get so up for these guys. But I think we can agree that Max Kepler is probably the best addressment to the issue in the outfield when it comes to the lineup.
For sure.
So, I'm just going to go into it with optimism. I want him to be that guy, and I'm going to hope that Dombrowski, that Thompson, they hit on this addition to the lineup. Now, I think Max Kepler, his success is going to feed off a lot of the other guys doing their jobs as well. So we'll see how it goes. But I do just like the prowess that he brings. I think it is a little bit different from other guys like the Austin Hayes of the world. Like just more of a consistency that you bring to the lineup that I'm looking forward to. And I think just for that simple fact that he'll give you something, I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised with Max Kepler in the lineup because there's probably a lot of people out there that don't know a ton about him either if you just pay attention to big names.
This is his, 10th year? He came in the league in 2015. Only played in 3 games for the Twins in 2015, so really came in 2016. My pick is Max Kepler. I agree with you 110% is my biggest surprise, and I have Max Kepler penciled in as Mr. Consistency. And I think that's what this fan base is looking for. I think that's what this lineup and this team needs. And when I say Mr. Consistency, I say it for a few reasons. I think he brings a different approach, like you mentioned, than guys that are in this lineup. Max Kepler, when the signing was first announced, I remember people like Matt Gelb and others were already starting to post how he has a below whatever chase. Like he does not chase. He does not expand the zone like this lineup likes to. He has a good eye. He can hit for power. He has a 36 home run season. 2 years ago, he hit 24 home runs. He was injured last year, hit 8 with 42 runs driven in, didn't play a whole lot. He has the potential to hit power. 375 average this spring with a 1175 OPS. That's astro-fucking-nomical. And I know that's the spring, and I know it's, potential minor league pitching, and it's a small sample size. That is huge in the middle of this lineup. And what Mr. Consistency is going to bring is consistent play in the outfield. What they decide to do with Brandon Marsh is what they decide to do with Brandon Marsh. If it is a platoon with Rojas and Marsh in center field, we'll find a way to live life that way again, okay? But last year and in previous years, you've had 2 corner outfield spots. If you didn't want Schwarber in left field, right? Like if you wanted Costi in right, you were moving around a mixture of Rojas, Marsh, Pache before he was traded, Austin Hayes when he was brought over and he was injured. You're moving around a lot of pieces. Weston Wilson's playing one day. Max Kepler
knew there were some other
should be playing damn near every day. He's 32. He's been around for a little while. He was injured last year. I'm not suggesting he's going to be Nick Castellanos and not miss a game in the corner outfield, but he should be playing 140, 130 plus games for this Phillies team this year. He should be Mr. Consistency. I expect him to hit 270 and above. I expect him to hit 16 to 20 home runs and just be that guy that's there every day because this lineup needs it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, man. And it is interesting when you talk about consistency. Like, is it worth it to go from Marsh to Rojas? Like, is it worth it? Like, just to do that consistently throughout a season?
No, I think it's Brandon Marsh's job until Brandon Marsh continuously, and I mean continuously, the first few months of the season proves that he
Struggle.
cannot hit left-handed pitching.
Yeah.
Like Brandon Marsh, if by June has a split of 278 versus right-handed pitching, but a $111 against left-handed pitching. Well, then he's not an everyday guy. He cannot hit left-handed pitching. We got that, right? We have a big enough sample size, but you have to give him that opportunity. And it's not like people go back to the amount of attempts, and yeah, he's given opportunity the past year and a half to hit left-handed pitching, but it's not a consistent opportunity. So when I say consistent opportunity, I mean a month straight.
It's one of those things. You're going into the next week of a season. You see a left-handed pitcher on the schedule. You think, I'm not going to play that game. Right. I'm not going to start in the lineup that game. Then all of a sudden you're starting in the lineup, right? Correct. And that's the inconsistency of it. And so, yeah, I think to your point, man, you give him a consistent couple of months, maybe 2 months of the first part of the season. Go out there, start consistently, try to hit against left-handed pitching, and see if that's the answer. But I don't know, man. Like on the other side, it's just like, is Rojas hitting left-handed pitching? You know what I mean? Like,
correct.
Like I don't know. Like
did he put on that muscle this offseason, Scotty?
I don't know. I pencil myself in as like a novice baseball fan, a diehard Phillies fan, but that just kind of doesn't make sense to me. You know, at the end of the day, I do get that Rojas is a spectacular outfielder. He's great in the field, but if he's not hitting left-handed pitching better,
and that's fine because
matter?
Johan Rojas can be here to be a late inning type of player, to play the center field in the 9th inning, right? To come in and steal a base if you need a run in extra innings or late in the game, right? He can do that for you. But to be a platoon starting center fielder right now, he's
for a World Series contender
at the plate, man. And
for a World Series contender.
Correct. And I think the biggest piece that frustrates me with a guy like Johan is, dude, if I'm Rob Thompson and Kevin Long and with Johan Rojas, my man, you're going to learn how to lay down a proper fucking bunt. Yeah. Okay? Because the kid can't do that. And that is, when you have that speed, that is a difference-making scenario. And there's no opportunity for him to do it because he doesn't do it well.
Yeah,
so
he can't get on base.
It sounds corny. It sounds stupid. Dude, if Johan Rojas can lay down a bunt down the third baseline, he's getting to first base.
Yeah.
Okay? Instead, he's missing. It's popped up foul. It's popped up to the catcher. It's hit too hard directly at the pitcher. You have to be able to get that down at this point of your career if you want to be able to play for him. I see Martian's comment. I know you pulled it up. I do. Yeah. I'm not ignoring it. I want to come back to it in a few moments because I have him penciled in somewhere else for the show. Let's get to the most important, man. The most valuable, some would say. It's team's MVP. Floor is yours. I'm interested to see where you go. We could have the same person.
I have a feeling that we are, unless you went with MV3. I don't know if you went that route, but no, I went with Trey Turner, man, because we talked about it earlier this week, obviously, and it's not that Trey Turner has had like a horrible start to his Phillies career. Well, he kind of did, right? And then they had the applause, and then we got past that, right? It felt like we got past that, but then when you start to really look at him, his performance, the numbers, the money he's making, got to play a little bit better. But I do think he will. And I know we're going to do this segment later, but I'm buying stock in Trey Turner. I am, because I think the adjustment to the lineup, hopefully, right? Trey Turner leading off, I think that could help him significantly with his batting numbers and just getting in better positions, putting the team in better positions, quite honestly. Along with that, man, I've been doing a lot of research. I've seen a lot of talk about him working on his fielding this off season and really wanted to lock in and lock that part of his game up defensively and maybe compete for a Golden Glove award. And I think if he's playing at that level out in the field, he's leading off our batting lineup for a World Series contender. I think he could not only end up the MVP of the team, could end up an MVP candidate. We've seen it from Trey Turner before. He has that in him. It's time to deliver it in a Phillies uniform. And I think there's just something weird about this season. Or just a weird feeling. I don't know if that's going around about Trey Turner, but it just feels like maybe it's just make or break in a sense of like not make or break of him like being good at baseball. It's make or break of him being like arguably the best player on the team.
Right.
And I think that's what we're going to be kind of make or breaking this season. So maybe that's where I'm at with Trey Turner, is where I need to see it now or I'm just not going to see it.
No, it's a very fair point, because
so that's kind of how I go with Trey.
The pressure and expectations are there. He is a major, major talking point this offseason. We've said it a couple times. The Phillies will win a World Series if Trey Turner is great, not if he's good. The Phillies will win a World Series if Trey Turner is a star, not if he's good. And he was good last year. He hit 298, right? He went through those stretches. Post All-Star break, he went on an absolute tear. We've had moments in 2023 where he took Spencer Strider deep to clinch the NLDS division. He came out against Zach Gallen and company and went deep a couple times. We've seen the stretches along with everyone else in this lineup, but it's about being consistent. It's about being much better in the field. It's about taking advantage, if you are in that leadoff spot, of getting on, of stealing bags, because this is a guy, let's face it, that can steal you 40-plus bases in a season, and that's what his game's been predicated on for a long time. And when you start to climb in age, one part of his game that's going to deteriorate is that speed, is that base stealing ability. Trey Turner is my MIP. He is my most important player. My most
most important. My bad. To
success. I went chalk.
Okay.
Sue me. I went with the already actual MVP. I went with MV3. And hear me out. Dill. I get it, guys. I understand.
It's fair, man. Trey's an obvious one, too. It's fair, dude. It is.
As a person that is super excited and has very high expectations for this team in this season, unlike some other people in the fan base, I understand the age concerns.
Yeah.
What's funny about it is Trey has like 7 years left on his deal. Yeah. Bryce has, let's see, Bryce signed 13 years in 2018 or 2019 or something like that. So Bryce is here for another 6-7 years, and he's talking extension. So they're not going anywhere, but I'm talking about him being the catalyst. I'm talking about him being the best player on the team.
Yeah.
And that window, I don't know how much longer that window is going to be. I hope I'm wrong. Like, I hope Bryce Harper is an MVP candidate for the next 6 years, okay? And he very well could be. But I recognize this is a huge year for him and the Phillies. And I look at what has taken place the last 3 years and that decline we've been talking about each and every postseason. They've gone backwards.
Yeah.
Especially last year to your division rival. You finally won the division and you went out sad that way. And then they go and get better. They go and get Juan Soto, your former teammate in Washington. I think that Bryce Harper doesn't need any added motivation. But I think you get a different type of Bryce Harper this year. And maybe the numbers aren't what they were when he won the MVP in 2021 or whenever he won it more recently. Yeah. Maybe that they won't be there, right? Maybe he's not hitting 300. Maybe he's not driving in, 30, 32 home runs, whatever it is. But I think you get a different type of Bryce Harper. I think he continues to deliver in the biggest, most clutch moments throughout the season. And I think the Phillies win a lot of baseball games because this dude's the best player on the field, the most clutch player on the field. And I think he takes them to where they need to go this year. I think he's going to be a different kind of leader. And I just think if you already didn't need a reason, if the money, if craving the championship wasn't already a reason, the way they went out last year and the talk surrounding this team, the dude listens to WIP driving to the ballpark every day. He says it. He calls in.
Yeah.
He's listening. Yeah. If there is a guy that takes that criticism well and delivers it out on the field, it's him, right? Maybe Trey does it. Maybe Alec doesn't. Maybe Aaron Nola doesn't. If there's a guy that's going to say, hold that for me and watch what I do, it's that dude. And I think he's one of the best players in baseball this year, not just for the Phillies. I think he's an actual MVP candidate again this season in 2025.
I like it, man. I like it. I
I
don't
also
think you
just
can argue with
love
that
the
one.
dude. What'd you say?
I don't think you can argue with that one.
No, I mean, no, can't really. That's why I picked him, Scotty. You can't tell me I'm wrong, right?
Yeah, no, I
Right?
can't.
No,
But
in all
no, I feel you.
seriousness, I'm very excited to watch Bryce Harper play baseball in a Phillies uniform again. Because we talked Mr. Consistency, like we said that earlier. Since Bryce Harper has come here, that's all he's been.
Yeah.
I mean, I just like glossed over his numbers since he's come here, and it's mind numbing of how good he's been and the way he's changed the course of this franchise. So, yeah, Bryce Harper MVP, Trey Turner MVP, Max Kepler's a surprise. 2 former pieces of the daycare, because I'm no longer referring to them as the daycare, and Bryce Stott and Alec Boehm will bounce back this year. Let's get into some stock up, stock down. Are you buying in? Are you out on some of these players? I have a couple guys written down. I don't know if you have any names that come to mind. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. I feel like Martian like gets these rants and then he doesn't think we're serious. Like, remember when we were calling the Eagles the best team in the world and he's like, y'all don't believe it? Or when we're talking about Jalen, he's like, y'all don't actually believe it. Oh, then they won a fucking Super Bowl and he won the Super Bowl MVP. So no, I believe what I say about this Phillies team. If you're not bought in, that's on you, not on me.
If anything, the Eagles have us like riding high right now. Like I'm feeling like a fucking genius. Because there were points in the season where people started to like catch on to how good the Eagles were. Right. But those first 5 weeks,
oh yeah,
like right before or around that Browns game and like the Jags game and the Panthers game mixed in there, like I remember all of those Jalen Hurts haters out there. Like I remember all of it. So yeah, we're gonna hold our chests out high.
Hand
now,
up, to be fair, hand up. I wouldn't have let Nick Sirianni back on the plane from New Orleans in week 3. So hand up. I wanted one person under fire at one point for another last season. However,
everybody after that dismal end.
There we go. That's what we're doing. That's what we do on this show, Martian. That's right. Hand up. Wrong.
Gotta believe. It's very similar in a sense. Bryce is better than Jalen at baseball than Jalen is at football. But Jalen has shown you that he can play at an MVP level. Correct. So you just have to trust it, man. But no, we're beyond that. I know Martian. I know Martian. We're beyond that now. We know that Jalen is him. Like he's solidified himself, and that's what these Phillies need to ultimately do this season as well, led by MV3, my man. So
I want to go back to this Martian comment because this is the first player up on our stock up, stock down conversation here. Ranger Suarez. Stock up or stock down? Scotty, are you investing in the Ranger? Now, I know he comes in on the IL this year, so we don't get him. I don't know how long that's going to be. We get Taijuan Walker, fortunately, at the back end of this rotation for however many starts are needed. Hopefully it's not that long for Ranger to come back from. But the reason I throw Ranger in here is because he's a Philly sweetheart, right? He's a fan favorite. We've seen clutch performances from him, a la San Diego getting to the World Series. He was put in a closer role. He's put in the bullpen. He starts last year. He starts 10-1. Hadn't given up a run in however many straight innings. Ridiculous. Cy Young conversations. People were really investing their money at that point. Gets nicked up, gets hurt, post All-Star break, trade deadline, whenever it was. Torpedoes, right? Then he comes back for the playoffs, and he wasn't good. I remember that Mets game when it was either, I don't know if it was game 3 or game 4. I forget which one he pitched. But it was the Mets game where he only got through 4 innings.
Yeah.
But battled. I remember he got out of 2 bases loaded jams with no outs or 1 out. And he was Mr. Smooth and just calm, right?
Yeah.
Where are we heading into this year with Ranger Suarez? When he's back from injury.
Yeah. Thinking about Ranger healthy. I think I'm not buying stock. I'm uninvesting in Ranger as a starter. I think that's where I'm at with Ranger this season. So where I would buy my stock for Ranger is as that kind of utility guy that can be used pretty much anywhere come postseason. I do buy stock in that. I think he can give you clutch innings. I think he can give you 2 to 3 like just knockout innings, right? When it comes to Ranger Suarez, but I do worry about like the longevity of a starter, right? Pitching, 5 to 7 innings a game or a start. I don't think that that's Ranger. I think that Ranger is a utility guy that you can throw in a bunch of different spots. He's a great, what was it in the postseason last year where when you get to the end of your lineup and you have to throw a bunch of randoms out. He's great in that moment. He's top class in that moment to start that game.
Yeah. Why am I drawing a blank on what we call that? I know you're saying like when
I can't remember what the fuck
he throws 3 innings, someone else throws 2 or 3. Yeah, I can't. I don't know why.
I cannot remember what it is fucking called right now. But one of those things, brother, where they throw it all together. Nonetheless, I do like him for a nice inning spot, a 2 inning spot, a 3 inning spot.
And I think that's where an Andrew Painter is incredibly important if he does come up at some point in time, because Ranger's important first and foremost, because let me just say this. I agree with you. I think I don't want to sit here and say like I'm out because I do like he's so calm, cool, and collected. But I think what we saw last year, because he's never done it before, and I don't know how his body's going to respond this go around, is that he might not just be built to throw every 5 days and to throw into the 6th, 7th inning every 5 days.
Am I mistaken? He did not have like a no-hitter mixed in last year, right?
Dude, he might have. He
might have.
He had a lot. He had a lot going on last year.
I have this inclination in me to say that we've seen him, even when he's been pitching well, get into the 6th inning and look really, really rocky. Yeah. So I may be completely off there. I'm going strictly off my perception watching Ranger over the last few years. As the innings go on, he loses the control.
And it was the second half of last season. It's just I don't know that he'll be able to hold up for that long. So to your point,
I'm not out on him.
I think he's a starter, but he's got to have his innings reduced.
Yeah.
You got to try to find ways to save him down the stretch for the year. But he's also a guy that, like World Series, right? You ever see like teams bring their aces out to close out a World Series in the ninth game?
Yeah.
Not that he's your ace. Like if you have a Zach Wheeler available, you probably throw a Zach Wheeler.
Yeah. But you trust Ranger.
Steady heartbeat can go away and do it if you need him to.
And like I think that's the thing, that it's not that we don't trust him. So it's like we're not like selling Ranger, right? Like it's not like that. We're just not buying him as a full-time starter. But I would buy Ranger outside of Zach Wheeler in just about any one inning scenario, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I think last year we got to a point where we were like penciling Ranger in as like the number 3 or number, you know what I mean? Like,
no, or maybe
he was number 2.
Oh yeah, he was like you had Zach Wheeler, and then there was the argument of is he better and more consistent than Aaron Nola, right? And I think his body, his arm can't hold up for that long. At least last year it couldn't. Maybe, but now he's we'll see. But so Ranger Suarez. You know what? I'm going to say stock up for Ranger because I'm going to fade the public a bit, because I think there is this public perception of what you and I talked about, but taking it too far, right? Taking it too negative. Oh, he's hurt again. He's always injured, blah, blah. So I'm going to throw stock on Ranger because I think he's going to be valuable this year. I think he's going to be much better than that rough patch last year, but I don't think he can, be the 3rd or 4th starter every 5 days in a rotation throughout an entire summer and expect his arm to hold up, right?
Yeah.
So
I think that's
an interesting one. We talked Alec Boehm already. We talked some other guys. Let me ask you a guy I just brought up with Ranger. Aaron Nola, stock up, stock down.
This one, it was interesting. I went with stock up, man. He got his money. He is now third in the rotation, right? So not as much pressure as a number 2. You got Luzardo in there. Sanchez has been great. So I feel like his expectations have kind of like leveled out to what Nola is. Like he is what he is. And I think Nola is a very high quality number 3 starting pitcher. I think that's what it comes down to. You put him in the 2, maybe I'm not buying stock, but you put him in the 3, I'm buying stock in that. And I think it's a good spot for him. I think it kind of levels his expectations to his actual caliber of player. Like he's not a number 1, which we had thought at a certain point in his career. And that's fine. Not everybody is. Not everybody can be Wheels. So I'm buying stock in Nola this year. I think it's a good spot for him. I think it's a good setup.
I agree, man. And let me tell you this. I almost included him in like all of my previous categories. I don't bounce back's weird because he wasn't bad last year at all. He was actually very, very good last year. So it wouldn't be a bounce back. Surprise, like he was in that mix of like, I feel like when I say surprise, I don't just mean to be good. I think he would surprise the fan base in he has a number 2 type of season. Like he is very, very good this year, very consistent this year. Yeah. But I think that's what we're looking for when it comes to Aaron, right? And I think that's where he gets the fan base so unnerved is how you can have 4 straight starts where you look like a Cy Young candidate and then a game or 2 blended in where you can't get out of the Rav 4th inning. That Rav 4th inning, it unfolds. And there's back-to-back moonshots, and we're down 4-0. And it's like, that's the unnerving part, right? Because great pitchers get rocked at times.
Yeah.
They don't get rocked once every other week, right? Like Wheeler will get rocked at times. You might rock Zach Wheeler once a month, maybe, if you're lucky. Right? Yeah. Maybe once a month and a half, something like in a season, he might get beat up 4 times.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
When we talk about Aaron Nola, you're talking about 2 times in a week span at times.
Yeah.
That's not what great pitchers do. But I think he's going to be a very, very, very steady and good pitcher this year for this rotation. Like you mentioned him being 3. It's also to break up the righties and lefties, which I love having. I get to see Luzardo make his first start on Saturday, so I'm amped for that. But I do think it takes, in a weird way, it's not competing, but like you're not following Zach Wheeler, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we'll see how that pans out for him. But I do love that movement.
Do you think Nola is he the kind of player that kind of goes as the team goes? And do you know what I mean by that? Like, if the bats are swinging, if everything is rolling, Nola's rolling along with it. But if things start to turn downhill a bit, he will feed into the negativity going on, right?
Yeah, and he's like, it's almost like a momentum thing with him in a weird way. Like, I think in the past, maybe like 3-4 years ago, before we really had one of these, premier lineups, I feel like if I remember correctly, Nola was a guy that never got run support. Like he had so many 2-run losses, 1-run losses type of stuff like that. And now you get to now, and it's like, you're right. Like if we go cold, we might get blown. Like Nola, it just feels like Nola gives up 5 runs, right?
Yeah.
But like the playoff games, right? Like when the bats are hot in the playoffs, it feels like Nola is 7 innings, no runs, right? When the bats start to get sluggish.
2 years ago?
Yes. Yeah. It was even in 2022. He was fantastic in St. Louis. He was fantastic in the Brave series. That was game 3 where Reese had the bat spike and the bats were rolling. And he was, I believe, once we got to the NLCS, he shit his pants because we won game 1 with Wheeler on the mound in San Diego. And then if I remember correctly, he got rocked in San Diego and we lost that game and we came back here 1-1. And then I don't think he had a pitch again that series. And then I think we lost the game that he pitched in the World Series in Houston as well. So, yeah, it's like, and that's when the bats started to slow down, right? Yeah. So
It's
It's
interesting.
interesting that he's like kind of like a momentum feeler. Like if
Yeah.
we're locked in, Nola can go 8 innings. If we're struggling, I don't know that he's the best guy to keep you in the game at the moment.
He
So
needs that run support, but he also does that thing too. Now that I think about it, like where maybe I have it backwards though. For some reason I have in my head like us going up to early in the game, maybe even the first inning, and then he just gives it right back.
you
Maybe
might be
I
right.
used with somebody else. I don't know.
No,
I
you
just
might
have
be
that in my head.
1,000% correct.
And just wanted to throw it out there. D-Rab did correct us. He helped us out. Bullpen game. There is another name for it.
No. There's another term for it though, because I know what he's saying, but I'm saying like a bullpen game, you're shuffling in like 6-7 guys. I'm saying like Rangers the opener, he's throwing 3 in. Like Syndergaard. When Syndergaard came over here a couple years ago, he was an opener in the playoffs. He pitched 3 innings. And then you had another guy come in for like 2 innings. And then and then that's like a starter pitching 5 or 6 innings. And then you get into the bullpen at the end. So I forget. There's something slipping my mind. There's a term slipping my mind.
Yeah. Because bullpen game, that doesn't. Yeah, I know what you mean. We've done it in the postseason recently, so I know exactly what you mean. But
I got 2 more names for you. I don't know if you have anyone else to add. Brandon Marsh, another like what feels like Philly sweetheart, right? Like just a fan favorite, part of the daycare, newer edition a couple years ago. Stock up or stock down for Brandon? Interesting season. We don't know if he's going to be in a platoon role, if he's going to get more of a shot at an everyday role. But how do we feel?
Yeah, the funny thing is, Dylan, the way I did this, I basically have all these guys written down, and I have an arrow pointing up or an arrow pointing down, and then I have I have just a hash mark for some guys that I was just kind of like couldn't figure it out. And I think to your point, it's because I don't know if he's going to get the consistent opportunities. But I guess what I would say is I would buy stock in Brandon Marsh starting every day, even against left-handed pitching. I would love to see that. I would love to buy stock in that and to see if that helps him be a better consistent hitter against left-handed pitching. I think it's as simple as everything else in life. You don't get better at it until you practice it and until you do it and until you're put in those moments and in those situations, those scenarios. So I'm buying stock on Brandon Marsh as an everyday starter for the most part out there in center field. But if it's going to be the back and forth thing with Rojas, I'm not, there's no way I can buy stock or faith that Marsh is just going to somehow figure out how to, consistently hit in inconsistent moments, if that makes sense. So if you want consistency, give him consistency. I
agree with you, man, because I'm just looking at his numbers since he's become a Philly, right? Since he's become a Philly, I'm just wondering if things changed in his approach last year, and as it did with a lot of guys in this lineup last year. Because let me just read you this, okay? So since Kevin Long got his hands on him, since coming over from the Angels, the second half of 2022, Brandon Marsh hit 288 with a 455 slugging percentage and a 773 OPS, right? In 2023, he played 133 games, 404 at-bats, right? He had 12 home runs, 60 RBIs. He hit 277, 458 slugging, which is higher, and an 829 OPS. Now, last year, he only plays in 2 more games, gets 14 more at-bats than in 23. He hit 16 home runs. Power up, okay?
Yeah.
He hit his lowest in average at 249. He hit his lowest in slugging at 419, and he hit his lowest in OPS at 747. So the home runs ticked up by 4 from the previous year, but the power metrics came down, and the average came way down than the previous 2 years. Whatever you did last year, stop it.
Yeah, don't do that.
Because I promise you, from my 9-hole hitter, I will gladly take 10 to 12 home runs with a 275 to 285 average than 15 or 16 home runs and a sub 250 average with a low OPS and slugging percentage. Whatever you did, whether it was a team, like we all love Kevin Long, but it feels like when they first come over, Kevin Long fixes them, and then at some point, some way or another, we're all looking to just jack home runs, and I don't need that from Brandon Marsh.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to put it. Obviously, horrid in the postseason last year as well.
Happy birthday, little G.
Happy birthday, fam. Yeah, I think to your point, man, whatever he was doing last year, stop that. Give him some consistency as far as getting at bats on a day-to-day basis, man. And I think from your 9-hole, like, you'll be all right with Brandon Marsh. We're buying Brandon Marsh stock as a 9-hole hitter, Martian. Yeah. Like, not as the, not as a key integral part of the team, but as a 9-hole hitter and as a good piece out in the outfield, not making errors. So
because he's another guy, like I mentioned with Bryson at the back end of this lineup, where depending on how they're going, changes the depth and outlook of this lineup and of this team. Because when those bottom of the order guys are going well, when they're either hitting for power or getting on for Schwarber in the top of the lineup consistently, when you get to those innings where it's 8-9-1 coming up in the order, you feel a certain way. You feel a confidence about this team. When they're not playing well, when Brandon Marsh is hitting a $112 in the postseason, and Bryson Stott's hitting 200 in the postseason, etc. You look at that lineup and it shrinks for you because you're less confident in those guys producing anything. So, yeah, you need Brandon Marsh to bounce back and be a solid piece of 9-hole hitter because that's a difference-making spot for this Phillies team because, let's face it, guys, not a lot of teams have you know what I mean? Like, not a lot of teams have a guy in their 8-hole or 9-hole that they trust or count on or that really produces for them in any way. So that's where they can get a leg up. I got one more name for you, and this is actually going to be my first and possibly only stock down. And it pains me to say this because I feel like if we want to reach the places we want to get to this year, our expectations, this guy has to be better at the plate. I'm very interested to see where Topper slides him into. And he needs more days off. JT Realmuto.
Yeah. I knew it. Yeah, I knew it.
I am stock down on JT at the moment. He still is arguably the best defensive catcher in the game. You do not run on that man. I love him back there.
Yeah.
That bat pisses me off to no end. And I'm not saying that because it's like when he was brought over here from Miami that he was, some Silver Slug Award winner, okay? But, I mean, Scotty, man, from 16, and I know that feels like a long ways ago. From 16 on, he hit 303, 278, and 277 in Miami. He came over here year one and hit 275. And then it's like he gets we're all around 263. And his last 2 years are the lowest he's hit with the Phillies. 252 and 266, man. It's not good enough, especially where Topper has relied on him in like the 5th or 6th hole of this lineup. He cannot hit there. He can't.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. That's one of 2 guys I've had stock down on out of the guys that I have written down here. But JT, he fits the mold. He is just getting older too. I think that's obviously part of it, right? You mentioned more days off. You have Rafael Marchand there.
Yep.
He's a guy that can actually come in and play more consistently.
And slugs when he's healthy. So please, for the love of God, that kid, stay healthy this year.
Yeah. So if you can keep him healthy and have him as a backup option, I think you can afford to give JT more days off. I think it's a mixture of him just getting older, probably dropping down in the lineup to your point. I'm not buying stock on JT.
No.
But
And it's frustrating because I feel like we need to. Like I feel like he's a guy that I want to say
I think
yes to
you
because
need him.
I think he's important, very important to this lineup. Because he's almost like a glue piece. Like he's the connector from the big guys up top to the younger guys, the daycare, whoever's at the bottom, right? The Stott, the Marshes. If you have a Kepler down there, you pencil him in the middle of those guys. It's like when he's not going well, Scotty, that's when that dip, that's when that lineup gets shrunk, right? Like because it's oh boy, you need him. Look, no one's asking JT Real Muto, right, to hit. I mean, hold on, this cannot be true.
What?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong thing. I mean, that's another thing. He last year, hit 266, had his lowest home run total as a Philly since 2020, and obviously that was a 47 game season. So no, by far his lowest home run total as a Philly in 14. His second lowest average season as a Philly. It's not good enough, man. It's not good enough. He needs more days off. And we need him
to your point, I mean, you have to just hope as well, man. We've talked a lot about Bryson Stott. We talked about Max Kepler. Hopefully they can pick up some slack there, man. That's why you do want more from Bohm, from Stott, like these other guys in the lineup, because you do have to account for drop off somewhere, right? Like at some point, Schwartz is going to have some type of drop off. JT's going to have even more of some type of drop off. Like you're going to have to account for this stuff as time goes by. And you have to hope that these guys we have in house are the guys to do it. So
look, and another thing, the last two times that the last little sample size we have with JT Real Muto at the plate is the postseason against the Mets. Would you like to guess what he hit in that series in those 4 games?
No, I don't even want to guess.
0.00. He did not record a hit in the 4 games against the Mets in 11 at-bats. He drove in 1 run, which I'm assuming, if I remember correctly, is either a sacrifice fly or a ground ball sacrifice.
Incredible.
And then this spring, he's hitting 226. So since the playoff series till now, he continues to struggle at the plate after a bad season at the plate last year.
Yeah.
Not ideal. Not ideal. So that's why stock is down. Is my Wi-Fi okay at the moment? Can you guys hear me, see me fine? Am I lagging?
Yeah, you're good on my end.
Very interesting, because the Wi-Fi thing just popped up.
The only other player that I have stock down on, is Alec Bohm, and I know I picked him as like the bounce back player. It's because like I want it to happen.
Yeah. I like that.
You know what I mean?
Like it's like the bounce back player is the important.
I'm not buying that stock.
Yeah, I like it. I had him written down. I didn't ask you because you did pick him for that, so I was like, whatever. But I do like I get the thought process, right? Like him bouncing back is the guy you need to bounce back.
You need it. You want it.
But I'm not buying into it at the moment.
Martian said you're clear as mud.
I don't think that's very good. I don't think Mud's
very clear.
Yeah. So.
Oh man. All right, man.
Yeah. That's
final predictions, man. I think it's time.
So, I have this team winning around 93 games. I don't think they win the division because I think that our division is just too tough. There's going to be too many battles this year. But don't take that as the negative. Like the Atlanta Braves are healthy again. The Atlanta Braves are a regular season team if we've seen anything in recent memory. Okay, they'll win 109 games, and then they'll lose to us in the postseason. I think they get the first wild card spot. Yes, I think they beat out the Mets for the top wild card spot. I'm going to sound like such a homer. I'm going to sound like such a homer pick when these words come out of my mouth. But I can't, in good faith, come out and predict anything else. I have the Phillies winning the World Series. Against who? I don't know. I don't know. That the AL is not very strong to me. I don't want to just say that New York matchup and pick the Yankees and they get back there. Here's why I picked the Phillies. I don't think the Dodgers can get back, man. Like, I know that sounds ridiculously stupid. It's so difficult to get back. Who else knows? Like, it's so difficult to stay healthy and have all these things go right for consecutive years and get back to the World Series. So I'm not picking them to do it. And then I look around the rest of the National League, and I will go to battle with these guys and take these guys over the field. I will take them over the Braves, as we've seen in 22 and 23. I'll take them over the Mets because guess what, everybody? Yeah, maybe that rotation gets some help. Maybe they get healthy. That pitching rotation fucking stinks, and it is hurt as hell to start the year. Good luck. That's all I'll say there. And yeah, I'm going to go with that. Brother, it's our season kickoff show. We have to give the prediction, just like we would do with the Eagles to kick off the season.
It is crazy though, like 162 games.
I'm a long way away. Right, but I can't watch them play 3 months of baseball. They'd be outstanding, and they'd be like, "See, they're going to win the World Series."
Yeah, exactly. You have to make predictions,
so it works. And if it doesn't work, hand up.
That's hilarious.
Your boy was wrong. But yeah, I think they're talented enough to do it. Obviously, they've been in consideration and contention for the last 3 years. I love this rotation. Yes, I know it sucks that we have to watch Taijuan Walker open up the season the first time through the rotation, but they're going to be deep. I expect Painter to come up at some point this year. The bullpen, it worries me to start. If there's one piece that Dombrowski normally helps out at the deadline, it is the bullpen. And I know we look back and we laugh at some of the additions, but you could go back to that David Robertson year. That David Robertson pickup was huge the year that we went to. Was that the World Series year? So I believe so. So he makes additions when needed to the bullpen, and I think that's their biggest weakness at the moment. So I don't expect that to stay a huge weakness moving forward.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough.
What do you got for me?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting season, man. I am with you on the sense of it feels like they're not going to win the division, and the only reason I feel that way is because I just feel like it's not like the goal, if that makes sense.
Correct.
Like
I think they set out for that personal goal last year, and look the wear and tear it put on you and how things played out.
So I don't think it's a priority this year. I think that's why I kind of, lean against them winning the division. The Braves will be back. The Mets should be better. It's going to be very competitive. Maybe they do, right? Maybe they do. I do think they will get over the 90 win mark. And hopefully compete for the NL. Let me put it that way. They will compete, maybe not win it. Man, it's like the homer like screaming in me, man.
I know.
But I think I am just gonna go casual. I think they can be the best team in baseball outside of
it's a great answer.
Talented team in baseball. Like it is what it is. I do agree with you. I think if things fall the Phillies' way, they can win a championship. Mm-hmm. Like it's not impossible. No, it's not impossible just because the Dodgers have a really good roster put together. It ultimately will take the Dodgers going out there, performing 162 games, winning their division, putting themselves in a great position. Like it takes all the same things for all the teams to win, right? So they have to go out there and do it. The only problem I have with that is that they did last season go out there and do it and then added more to the roster. But to your point, to strike gold 2 times in a row is very, very lucky if you want to put it in a luck sense. I just don't know if the Dodgers are working with luck right now. They're working with tons of money. So that's my best way to put it. I would say like NLCS, you just don't know if it's going to like match up like that to where they would meet there.
Right.
Especially if the Phillies don't win the division. So maybe that is something you look at, like to avoid is that's how it would work, right? To avoid the Dodgers, they would have to win the NL East if the Dodgers win their division.
Yes. And then like
to avoid them until the NLCS.
I would have to see. Like I'm trying to compute this in my head. Like,
Yeah.
yes, that is the correct answer. And then also like seeding would matter. So like they would have to get the 2 seed. If the Phillies would have to win their division and be the 2 seed, like how last year went
Okay.
essentially.
Yeah, that's a good point. They would have to be
Yeah.
the 2 seed as well in order for that to be like the ending point where they could meet.
Yeah.
So I won't say like NLCS or anything like that. Just because I don't know if that's where it would match up, but I will say the Dodgers is that team.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's
you can get past them,
only,
then yeah, I would probably pick the Phillies to win the World Series, quite honestly. So.
I think that's where my head's at. I think they're the second best team in baseball, and yeah, we got Brian that their ass, and that's fine.
He said that about Jalen Hurts too.
Yeah, he did. So yeah, keep it coming. But look, I agree. Like, I think my only argument against the Dodgers, the only leg I have to stand on is that it's just difficult to go back to back, right? Like, especially in baseball, in any sport it is, especially in baseball. So that's the only real thing from a non-talent standpoint I can look at. Health is another factor, but let's face it, they weren't all that healthy last year. Fucking who was it? Was it Glasnow that got traded there and then barely pitched for them and couldn't pitch in the playoffs? So they weren't even fully healthy last year. They added that other Japanese pitcher this year. Like they add everybody. They add fucking everybody. They had the best player ever in the world in Shohei. You know, they're 2-0 and Mookie Betts hasn't played and Freddie Freeman didn't play in a game against the Cubs.
This might be a really dumb question. Is Shohei pitching this year?
I believe so. I could be wrong. Maybe not till I don't know. That's a great question. When did he get the Tommy John? Before last year, right?
Yeah, I want to say before last year. I just have not heard anything about it. I would
assume so, unless that's just not in their plans for right now to force it. I don't know. I haven't seen. I know he didn't pitch in Japan when they just played that 2-game series against the Cubs. So.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know. So what their plan is there. I mean, maybe I can look at it right now. Maybe he's listed as the opener tomorrow, and we'll get it, and we'll get that answer now. But let's see. Tomorrow they play the Tigers. No, that's right. The other guy they fucking added, Blake Snell.
Oh, Blake Snell.
Yeah. just another guy that they picked up. So I get it, right? Like the Dodgers.
Yeah.
They might win 115 games. They might run roughshod over everybody and walk into another World Series.
Are they more than the Chiefs? Is that fair to say? Like like the talent, right? Like the Chiefs, the Chiefs argument is Andy Reid, Mahomes, Kelsey, right?
Yeah.
You go down the list of the Dodgers.
Yeah.
So I mean, because I was going to compare it to like that's crowning the Chiefs.
Correct. And by the way, we can all thank. Well, I mean, he signed with them, right? So we can all thank the Angels for just being such a poverty franchise, because you allowed possibly the greatest baseball player ever to go to that team.
Yeah, your neighboring team.
To a team that just won a World Series a few years ago. To a team that already had Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman at the top of their lineup. That spends $1 bajillion in offseason. Not a team that spends a lot of money. They're not the Mets, not the Phillies, not the Yankees. No, a team that spends more than anybody. We let them go there. And, obviously, and just how, but that's the thing, man. I'm not like a salary cap guy. Like, I do like the thought that the Phillies can sign anyone they want to as well. So to each their own. But baseball, what is it with Ohtani too, where it's all being deferred and pushed down the line basically to when he's retired or on his way out. So it's income. It's going to be income tax free when he moves. So they're getting. That's why they can do all this right now, because they can continue to add
complete financial freedom. Like they can maneuver however the hell they want in baseball.
Right.
So, yeah, Brian, you might be right there, man. Sadly, that is one of my doppelgangers out in the world, man. I got a few of them, and they from what I've found, they're all pretty pieces of shit. But no, I do agree with you. Ultimately, you look at the Dodgers and what they do. It's one of those things, man, where if you're an MLB fan outside of LA, you got to go with the field versus the Dodgers. You should be rooting for anybody but them, right? And maybe the Yankees. But no, man, I think the Phillies, we've talked about it most of the offseason when we mention them. They are one of the teams, one of the very few teams that will be there and waiting, if possible, to beat the Dodgers. So yeah, I do have a significant amount of confidence still in this Phillies team now that we've finally gotten here. I realized that as I was putting my notes together, as I was looking at numbers, like it's like you said, you get very overreactory. I don't even know if that's a real word. Yeah. Overreactionary. Thank you, man. You should help me with my grammar from
no
time
problem,
to time.
brother.
But yeah, I think we do as a fan base get a little overreactionary season to season. Now, that doesn't mean we go off picking the Sixers to win the championship next
right.
year. Right. Let me just be clear here. But no, this team, they have the talent that they've shown us where they can get to. It's just a matter of getting back there, man, which isn't always the easiest. But
no, it's not at all.
Let's go, man. Nationals. To start the season.
I'm going crazy over here at the moment.
What's going on?
So I got sent a fantasy baseball league link to join. And I know I have the ESPN fantasy app because I played on it before. And I clicked the link to go right on it, right? So look, click it and it takes me right to my app, right? But when I close out of the app, I can't find the app on my phone. And I'm like, yo, what am I missing over here? I've gone through every app and it's not on my home screen anywhere. And I'm starting to think I'm going crazy a little bit.
Did you search it?
Yeah.
Because
when I search it takes me to it, but it does it opens it, but then when I close out, I can't find the icon on my home screen. But,
so whenever I scroll my home screens over to the far right one and you get to your app library.
Yeah. And then you search it.
Yeah, search it from there and it does show you even the app.
So it comes up there. But I can't find the icon on
because you can remove things from your home screen but not from your phone basically. So cool. You may just need to add
possibly have done that.
That's probably what it was.
No big deal.
I only know that because I've done the same thing. But if you go all the way to the right and search it, you should be able to find it there. All right, man.
So Phillies won the World Series. We got that written down. Penciled in. I almost said Dodgers because they're on the mind. Nationals season kicks off tomorrow, man. They're starting out with a W, right?
Yes, sir.
I think they're minus 170 on the money line, which hefty. Do you go run line and need the insurance run at some point? It's always that's the thing about baseball, man. It's always the annoying thing because your favorites are going to be a little too steep to just eat all the juice on the money line. But then you get to the run line and you're like, well, yeah, if they win by 1, I'd like to think they win by 2 or more. But how many baseball games end 4-3 or
exactly
2 or 6-5
and you'll still be happy with just the win. So that's
they win, but then I lose my money at the end of the game. So it's all good. It happens a lot.
My life is a Duke fan, basically.
Yeah, it's true. Tomorrow night, brother. So we got the Sweet 16 tomorrow night. We got Phillies 4:05 first pitch in Washington. Exciting time, guys. We will be back. We'll talk
Monday
about because Friday I'll be leaving. So we'll be back on Monday talking Phillies, talking Sweet 16 and Elite 8. And make sure to subscribe, follow, share it with your friends, family, any other sports fans you may know of. We appreciate you. Have a great rest of